الحمد لله نحمده ونستغفره ونستعينه ونستهديه ونشكره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا مثيل له ولا ضد له ولا ند له وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا وشافعنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وحبيبه من بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين هاديا ومبشرا ونذيرا بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده فجزاه الله خير عنا خير ما جزى نبيا من أنبيائه فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم ارض عن ساداتنا أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وعن سائر الصحابة والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، عباد الله، فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العلي القدير القائل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أولم يكف بربك أنه على كل شيء شهيد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Fussilat, chapter 41, verse 53, we will show them our signs in the universe or the horizons and inside themselves until it will become quite clear to them that it is the truth. Is it not sufficient as regards your Lord that He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a witness over all things? Well, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said in a famous hadith that we keep repeating all the time as a reminder for ourselves, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة فأبواه يهودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. No one is born except upon the natural disposition. Then his parents turn him into a Jew or a Christian or a fire worshipper or a Zoroastrian. So we're still continuing talking about the first article of faith, which is believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other 5 articles will become very easy to believe in once we are able to believe in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So last time I started talking about faith and atheism, and inshallah we'll continue with that topic today. In this hadith that I just mentioned, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam tells us that everyone is born to accept the simple natural worship to one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most powerful, the most compassionate. However, for various reasons, people invent religion doctrines as they grow up or follow their parents, if their parents are not the religion of Islam, or they just start ascribing divine attributes to regular created being, just as saints or rabbis or popes or even imams or sheikhs, or just deny the creator altogether. When human nature and intuitive belief in one Allah are corrupted either by negative experiences or the influence of others, then logical argument may be required for a person to return back to his natural or her natural state. Because they're already out, and if you try to convince them that this is the religion of your parents, like it's mentioned in the Quran, they are not going to be convinced. You need to use logic and reason. Our intuitive beliefs, which we gain from our natural disposition, al-fitra, and experiences, serve to anchor and inform the beliefs that we gain through reflection and conscious. In this way, reading and reflecting on the Quran build this experience, and this is why we always encourage reading the Quran with understanding or the translation of the meaning of it and understand it as the general meaning of it. We will never be scholars of Islam. That experience is for our scholars and imams or sheikhs, but we are obligated to read the Quran with understanding as Allah orders us in the Quran. And if you read it with understanding, you will notice that Allah talks with us with logic and reason. And that's how we reach to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or in His existence. Now, obviously, from the last time I said there is a reason why I'm talking about atheism and faith, because there is a tsunami attacking our communities, not only this community, the entire Muslim communities in the US, in Europe, in the Muslim world, of atheism. They are with us, and you don't know about them. They still pray with us, they still wear their hijab, and they are joining us in our events, but they are atheists, and we don't know them. And they are just doing based on what the culture is asking them to do. Based on the Pew Research, like I mentioned last time, 23% of Muslims in this country are leaving Islam. And the same research is talking about, if we're gonna talk about atheism as a religion or a cult, then it becomes the second largest religion after Christianity, not Islam. If we're talking about divine religion, Islam is the second largest. But if we're gonna talk about religions or philosophies in general, then atheism becomes the second largest. And unfortunately, it's attacking our communities. And this is not a problem only among the Muslims, it's a problem among the Christians, the Jews, the Buddhists, and the Hindus too. Now, the Hindus and the Buddhists believe in Allah, but they, as we all know, they believe through partner. That's why we call them mushrikeen. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam says in authentic hadith, مثل المؤمن كمثل الخامة من الزرع تفيئها الريح تصرعها مرة وتعدلها أخرى حتى تهيج ومثل الكافر كمثل الأرزة المجدية على أصلها لا يفيئها شيء حتى يكون انجعافها مرة واحدة. The parable of the believer is that of a crop which withstands the wind. For the believer continues to withstand the suffering of trials. The parable of the hypocrite and the infidel is that of a cedar tree, that's the Ardat al-Mujdiyah, for it does not budge until it's uprooted. Muslims leaving the realm of Islam because of hypocrisies, whether in families or communities or states, which they see, because of the double standards they witness, because of the injustice they experience, and in certain cases because of lack of security and safety, like we see in Syria, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, and so on, and other places in the Muslim world. Obviously, these examples, these Muslims who leave the realm of Islam, from the beginning, they are prone to leave the realm of Islam. They are just looking for excuses. And their faith level is down. And they are just they just exercising Islam based on blind following or culture rather than reason and logic. And this is why we want you to believe in Islam based on logic and reason, not just follow what my dad taught me or what our grandfathers taught us. So when a problem or a challenge takes place, blame it on Islam and leave it. And that's the problem we're having in the Muslim world. When you ask the atheists about the creation of the universe, our creation, they say Mother Nature did it. What's your definition of Mother Nature? It's matter. Matter is the one created itself. So when you go and say, okay, so you believe in science, they say, yeah, we believe in science. So when you go and tell them, well, the first law of Sir Isaac Newton of motion says every object persists in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless it's compelled to change that state by forces impressed on it. Do you believe in that? They said yes. Okay, then I'm going to give you this ayah from Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 30. أَوَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Are then they who are bent on denying the truth, not aware that the heavens and earth were once one single entity, which we then parted asunder, and we meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, made out of water every living thing. Will they not then begin to believe? So obviously from this ayah, the heavens and earth were one entity, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala broke them asunder, and made from water every living thing as stated in the ayah. That's the beginning which atheists deny. They say matter did it in itself. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not part heaven and earth, we would not be here. That's also what the first law of motion, what Newton proved in the first law. In another word, that entity would stay in its motion and its state if Allah did not intervene and broke it asunder to create this universe. We wouldn't be here. This is based on their own, they say they follow science. Well, based on science, that entity would never be broken asunder, or what we call the Big Bang. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in all through the Quran, and based on the first ayah I mentioned, that Allah will show us His signs in the universe and in ourselves. Well, in Surah Fussilat, chapter 41, from verses 9 to 12, He subhanahu wa ta'ala explains the creation of earth and the universe. And He mentioned that from the beginning of it, from verse 9, in Surah Fussilat, that He created earth in 2 days. And what was the first 2 days, or the first 2 stages? And these days are, of course, based on Allah's days. Now we need to remember well, not all of you would remember that, but we need to know from Einstein's general theory of relativity that the bigger the mass, the slower the time. So when Allah mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Al-Sajdah or Surah Al-Hajj, that His day is equivalent to 1,000 years of hours, He's measuring it based on the size of heaven, or hell, which is bigger than earth. And since it's a bigger mass, time goes slower, or travel slower. So that day is equivalent to 1,000 years. Or when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Ma'arij, the day of judgment is equivalent to 50,000 years. Because the mass of that area where the day of judgment is going to be is even bigger than heaven and hell and earth all put together. So, and the bigger the mass, the slower the time. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created heavens and earth, there was nothing in there except the throne of Allah. And that throne is even bigger than anything else in the universe. So that's even more than 1,000 years or 50,000 years. Some of the scholars say that day on the throne is maybe even more than 2 billion years of ours. So anyway, in Surah Al-Fussilat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He created earth in 2 days, and that's the 2 stages or 2 days of Allah's days. And what was the first 2 stages He did? He goes and brings down, like He mentions in Surah Al-Hadid, chapter 57, brings down iron. And that is the solid core of the earth, and then surrounds it with the second layer of the molten iron. And why is that? Because later on, when earth is finished being created and start turning around itself, it causes the magnetic field, and of course we have the gravity. And that magnetic field protect us from the solar rays. Did matter do that in its own? When you ask the atheists that, of course they become speechless. Then the next 2 stages, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala builds the mantle. Now up to the 1950s, scientists or scholars believed the mantle is two layers. And we believed in the Quran and the Hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam that earth is 7 layers. The 2 layers of iron, the 4 layers of mantle, and the crust. Altogether is 7 layers. But scientists up until the 1950s, I think 1953, they believed earth is only 4 layers. Then later on, as technology evolved and became better, they discovered that the mantle actually is 4 different layers to support what Allah had already said in the Quran 1400 years ago. So comes the 2 stages after that, which is the mantle in 2 days, or the 2 days of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the last 2 stages, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finishes the crust of earth, the mountains, the seas, the vegetation, everything that man needs and animal needs to live on earth. and plus the rest of the universe to make it available, so Earth is livable. So when the scientists went and tried to measure how old is Earth, they measured it from the crust of Earth, which is only 1% of the entire size of Earth, and they found out that Earth is 4.5 billion years. Now Allah mentions in that surah and all across the Quran that He created heavens and earth in 6 days, His 6 days. So if I take, and Allah mentions in Surah Fussilat that He created earth in 2 days. So if we multiply the 4.5 by the 6, we come up to the 13.7 billion years, and that's the age of the universe. If you go and read the story of creation in the Bible and the Torah, they tell you that the universe is only 6,000 years old, and that Allah created the universe and the earth in 6 days and our 6 days. So when you go and tell them the Persian and Greek culture is being proven beyond the shadow of the doubt, it's 7,000-year-old culture. How is these two cultures existed before the existence of the universe? They become quiet. And this is where Einstein comes and says in his famous quote regarding science and religion, everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that some spirit, he called it spirit, we call it Allah, we call that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is manifest in the laws of the universe, one that is vastly superior to that of man. In this way, the pursuit of science leads us to a religious feeling of special sort. And then that's when he said, science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. And this quote is in accordance to the first ayah that I read in the beginning, سَنُرِيهُمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. But we will show you our signs in the universe and in yourselves. So to us, science and religion attached to each other, according to the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, both of them leads us or teach us to reach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to understand the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through sciences. And this is how we are the ones who started the foundation of modern day sciences. And it's a shame that you hear some of the Muslims today denying science or denying girls, for example, to go and to schools. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Ask Allah for forgiveness. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Another thing that atheists try to get to our kids or the seculars is what they teach in school these days. If some of our kids in high school, I know in Danbury High School and Brookfield High School, and those who study medicine later on in life in colleges or universities and biology, the theory of evolution for Darwin's. And that theory involves two things: that we evolved gradually from animals, and our origins is from the gorillas or monkeys. And that the second thing in the theory of Darwin's, and I'm gonna go just summary of it because I don't want to run out of time, that the law of the survival of the fittest, that according to his theory, that the process of evolution says that the bigger species will extend eventually and the smaller species will be able to survive, or the weaker counterparts of it will be able to survive. Now we know the dinosaurs back on millions of years or billions of years ago, they were huge, and these dinosaurs extended. But the flies and the ants and the fleas still exist. That's one thing. Two, to go and say that we evolved from animals. And a lot of people actually believe that until today, unfortunately. Without reading other scientists, forget about our scholars, without reading from our scientists, especially the scientists who started the DNA, and that's based on Mendel law. If you study the DNA, you will find out it's impossible for our DNA, our genes, to be equivalent or even remotely close to the genes of the monkeys. It's totally different. It's impossible. The first living thing that Allah created on earth billions of years ago, when earth was created, was the bacteria. How is that weak one-cell bacteria evolved to be a dinosaur and then later on became a monkey and somehow it became a human being? How is that even remotely possible? And when you study the genes of each one of them, it's totally different. Also, another doctor, his name is Dr. Soriel, when he studies the genes of the monkeys from the different stages they have, he went and told the Darwinians, and I'm not talking Muslim scientists, not yet. I'm going to get to the Quran and the Hadith in a minute. I'm talking their own scientists who refuse the teaching of Darwin theory in schools because to them this is a theory, is not considered a scientific theory, even worthy of teaching in schools. But the reasons they teach it in school is because some states teach the creation of universe and man in their schools, and that's conservatives states, and they teach it based on the Bible. And if you're going to teach that creation based on the Bible or the Old Testament, it negates modern day science. If you teach creation in school based on the teaching of the Quran and the tradition of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, it's in complete compliance with modern day science. And what will happen if they do that? And they will never do that. Their own kids will convert to Islam in waves, in groups, because they will discover and sell the missing spiritual part that they need, and they cannot find it in Christianity or Judaism. So Dr. Soriel was trying to find the link between man and the apes, and there was a missing link. And when he faced it with the Darwinians, or these who believe in natural, or what they call naturalists, they say, no, you just have to follow. So what's the difference between them and the fanatics? You ask a fanatics why you do what you do, you just have to follow. My father used to do it, my mother used to do it. So what's the difference between both of them? It's the same thing. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, which you read every Friday, in chapter 18, verse 51, Allah mentions straight, ما أشهدتهم خلق السماوات والأرض ولا خلق أنفسهم وما كنت متخذ المضلين عضدا. Allah did not make them witness to the creation of heavens and the earth or the creation of themselves. So based on what they're gonna go and say and claim that we evolved from apes. And then Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, in very authentic hadith, narrated by Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, may Allah be pleased with him, mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam from a handful of dust that was taken from all parts of earth. Therefore, mankind differs in their appearances and nature, because that's how Adam was created. From when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the angels to go and get a handful of dust from earth after he finished creating earth. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, also an authentic hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, and that's a lot of you will not know and you will be surprised, that he said, Allah Almighty, when he created Adam, his stature was 60 cubits. 60 cubits mean Adam alayhi salam was 90 feet tall. Believers will enter paradise in a perfect shape. Thus they will enter paradise in the shape of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. He also told us in the same hadith that since then creation has been in continuous diminishment of stature, meaning humans are shrinking. If you read the story of David and Goliath, Dawood alayhi salam and Jalut in Surah Al-Baqarah, and mentioned also in Surah Al-Ma'idah that they did not want to enter, the Israelites did not want to enter Palestine because there are giants living in there. And if you study the Quran and the history from back then, these giants, Al-Amaliq in Arabic, they were over 30 feet tall. Back then, humans were really tall. We started shrinking. And this hadith, which is in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, our scientists and scholars take it as one of the scientific miracles of the hadith, mentions that man used to be huge and tall, but we are shrinking. It doesn't mean we are evolved from the monkeys. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Isra, and we mentioned that many times, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. And we, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have certainly honored the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea and provided for them of the good things and preferred them over much of what we have created. So to go and say we evolved from apes, what kind of honor is that? So it's human being himself is dishonoring himself, whereas Allah had honored us. So, running out of time, inshallah, we'll finish with this topic, inshallah, next time. But the bottom line is, like Mufti Farhan mentions a lot of times when he comes here, and his specialty is in the youth. You cannot be too hard on the youth, but at the same time, you cannot be too easy. You cannot teach the youth Islam based on grandma fairy tale stories or based on what we follow. You need to teach the youth based on the logic and reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in the Quran and the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam uses in the hadith. And we follow the footsteps of our predecessors. That's how they taught Islam, and that's how we need to teach Islam, not based on culture, not based on tradition. And I remind myself, first and foremost, and you, with the hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, that's two words, very light on the tongue, very heavy on the scale of deed in the day of judgment. Subhanallah wa bihamdih, Subhanallah al-Azim, to say it at least 100 times a day. And know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to send prayers on Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam when he ordered us to say, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا آمنا بما أنزلت واتبعنا الرسول فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. ربنا أعنا ولا تعن علينا وانصرنا ولا تنصر علينا وامكر لنا ولا تمكر علينا واهدنا ويسر الهدى إلينا وانصرنا على من بغى علينا. ربنا اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا وأكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا وأرضنا وارض عنا. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.